Hey guys, it's Mr. Blaze.
Hey, this is Mr. Swicky. Welcome back. And
hi everybody, it's Miss Niles.
all right.
I feel like I'm a regular now.
That's
Yeah,
we
that's
were.
what Mr. Blaze said on the intro.
Yeah,
I
we were
can't
like,
get enough.
Regular
No.
status.
Yeah.
so
I need my jacket. You know, like on Saturday Night Live when they get
Yes.
jackets.
Yes.
For hosting for a certain
We ain't
number
got
of
those.
times.
t-shirts.
The best we have was a sticker.
T-shirts
Hey,
coming.
I love stickers.
Stickers work, yes.
So what? How would we classify? Like hosts. Where would like terminology of what you can call yourself outside of the Miss Niles
How about you guys are hosts.
host?
I can be a guest host.
Guest host?
Yes, host.
I'm not good
Or,
with
or a regular guest
titles or anything, so
Yes,
so
regular.
whatever, yeah.
Regular
Yeah.
guest host. Yeah,
Sure.
we'll go with that.
It's kind of like when Justin Timberlake got really popular on SNL.
Yeah. Oh,
No,
Popping back
yeah.
up, popping back up.
yeah, like
Making
the
cameos.
Even
all
though,
the
yeah,
time.
he's not a cast member, but like, yeah, you're basically here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're part of the team.
Yeah.
nice.
And this is a big one. Season
It is.
4, episode 1.
Spooky season.
I know.
Yeah, season 4.
Yes.
So I remember
We're old.
our first episode.
I don't.
Our first setting up of the whole podcast.
We had no camera.
We were like this. Remember those days? With the
Oh,
mask?
yeah.
Oh,
We don't have
yeah.
an actual mask anymore. Thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
That whole,
And then we were like,
talk about it.
can we do it? Can we? Is it okay? And we just took the
Well,
mask
there's no
down.
camera, so they really couldn't say we did anything,
Right.
True.
There's no proof,
No, it's just all.
I swear we were in different classrooms, like we just synced it together. So
Yeah, but it was all on the phone.
yeah,
Also,
just on
there was none of this. And think about how far we've come
I know.
from there to now, and
Sure.
we're on YouTube, and
This is professional.
you know,
You have made it.
We'll have to check the analytics. Like out of the
Yes.
blue, Mr. Blaze, like, guess what? We have a listener from Australia now. I'm like,
yeah,
really?
Cool.
So
all
I'm kind of
over.
cool. Yeah, I'm hopeful to see
yeah,
where this season brings us.
yeah. I mean, because I think we always take a look back at the previous episodes and
Yeah,
seasons,
not to duplicate.
and try not to duplicate. Like, I mean, how many Thanksgiving episodes did we do?
Yeah.
Probably 3.
I don't think I even showed up for the last year, did I? Because I was like, that's it. I got nothing to talk about.
Yeah. Mr. Whipple came on.
Yeah, he filled in.
talking about traditions and with all this stuff. I mean,
Sure.
we're talking Thanksgiving here, and not. So, I mean, we're on the precipice of it,
Sure.
but we can't forget about the most important, season that's coming up.
Halloween?
I'm just looking at your show
Oh.
for an idea.
I thought you were going to say like Christmas, and I was like,
No.
do not forget about Halloween.
This is a
No.
holiday
They're
time
legit.
for
We
me.
can't jump the gun.
Come on, you're a Target fan. Target is already doing that thing.
No, I was there the other day.
No,
I was there on
there's half
Sunday.
Christmas stuff out,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You go looking for Halloween
So-
stuff, and it's like,
So
you're-
last year I went to Target like
Yep.
maybe 2 or 3 days before Halloween because I
Yep.
was like, I don't really have a good Halloween T-shirt to wear
Sure.
to school because
Yeah.
we don't wear costumes to
Yeah.
our school. Which I mean, it is what it is. I wish we did, but we don't.
Yeah.
And there was absolutely no Halloween stuff out. Halloween hadn't even happened yet,
Right.
and it was all Christmas stuff, like in the regular clothing section.
So you got to do that
And so
awkward
I
thing.
got on that this year, and I bought like 3 or 4 shirts
Yep.
well before it
Like-
was even
like the big
even
rush.
before summer was over, so that I could have what I needed.
I see your story, and I just trust Halloween all year. So
Yeah, well,
ready. It's the advantage
I
kind
like
of
to shift with the season.
going through like an emo goth phase, once upon a time. So it's
Yeah.
so
It's one of those things too that doesn't ever really go like out of style.
No.
too.
Never. These dots,
Because-
man.
there you go.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, Doc
they were,
Martens.
they were around when I was in middle school myself.
Perfect.
Yeah. Oh, I know Doc Martens. It's so funny when like things your parents say, and when you're younger, you're like, you don't know what you're talking about. My mom's like, styles will come back,
I
Sure.
do, yeah.
and I'm like, my mom was right. Time flies when you get older.
Yeah.
Man, where did the day go? I say to
Right.
myself.
Well, the styles,
Daily.
we talked about this, I think, on the Trends
We did.
episode.
Yeah.
last
Oh, yeah.
spring. We
Yeah.
talked about how,
Sure.
like, now that we're the adults and we're in the parental role,
Yeah.
our old styles are coming back, and it is so trippy to go into a store and see the things that were
Yeah.
cool when I was in middle school
I know.
now become cool again, and my brain fights against it because at one point they were uncool,
Right.
so they were
Right.
cool.
During that time.
Yeah,
Right.
and then they were uncool, but now they're cool again. So I'm like, what do I do?
See, where's that land you? Yes.
Yeah,
I'm-
do I
I'm
wear
torn.
these things again?
Yeah.
Or
Right.
do I not? Because at one point in my life they were not cool.
Right.
Well, I think there's got to be a point too where, it is uncool because it's so new. Like
Yeah.
if you're like the first, like
Right.
you're a risk taker at that point. You're like I'm wearing like back in like you see cavalry, cheese, gas, and all
Yeah.
like I don't know if you guys I'm dating myself even more skids,
I remember skids.
Yeah.
right? They
I
had
remember
like it's like that
Yeah.
slippery when wet sign was on the back.
Yeah.
And that's how you knew.
We talked about it on the show because I was like,
Yeah.
this sounds like kind of a not so good thing today, but
Oh yeah
I didn't quite make it to the bathroom on time. Yes, the kids would know it as.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yes. But yeah, being the trendsetter and like
Sure.
you're like, oh, I'm gonna wear it, and then all of a sudden, bam, someone watches it and they're like, where'd you get that? And then
Yeah.
it's fascinating. Trends
I
are.
don't know. I
trends
think
are
we're in a
fascinating.
bad position though. Anything we have or do is not going to be cool by the generation beneath us, even if we invented it.
Yeah, the
That's
fanny
how-
pack.
As soon as I throw on my Nirvana t-shirt, they're like, "Whoa, bro! Like, why are you wearing that?"
Name 3 songs.
Like, I'm not.
That's what
I
I
was
do.
a big proponent of that band when they were out. So
I was actually live when they were a
Yeah.
band and performing.
seriously,
Right. Yeah. Name the singer. Name the guy, member of the band that started his own band.
Yeah.
Go.
huh?
That is actually still performing today.
Yeah.
Name one of the best covers of a Nirvana song. Weird Al. Sounds like Nirvana.
Maybe know who Weird Al is. They'd be like, "Who?"
Oh, right.
Al's
right.
actually coming to SPAC this summer.
Is he? Oh my
yes,
gosh.
he's coming
That's-
this summer.
Talking about my generation.
Maybe that local lore. Then we'll get going.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
There we
So
go.
for all of our international listeners,
I was waiting for it.
yeah,
Yes.
we
Oh.
decided to talk about local legends, local folklore.
Now,
To
local
the 518 here in
518,
New York.
upstate New York.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
there's another thing. Like, where's the line drawn?
I know.
Like upstate, mid-state,
Oh, we
downstate.
can't get into that debate.
That's a whole thing, Like North Country, I know is like where I went to college.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So like that whole like North Country, upstate. So yeah, New York. All of our stuff pertains to New York. I mean, some a little closer, some
Yeah.
within a stone's throw away, but
State
Within our
borders.
life
State borders.
experiences,
Yes.
like places maybe we've lived or we want to live or live close by to.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah. So I always think I didn't even put this in there, but with like the whole like spooky factor, if you were to divide like all like the spooky factors before we can get anything into like categories, like what would be like the 3 big categories that would designate being like spooky,
So haunted,
haunted,
Right.
right?
Okay.
like something. So when I was doing my research for this, which was actually really tough to do because I have stories and I have experiences that I do remember from growing up and being a kid.
Right.
But in order to come into this with some more information and like some background, I wanted to do my due diligence
Yeah.
and actually like look this stuff up.
Yeah.
That's hard to do. Reddit
What,
was a really
is
great
this
resource
history?
for that.
Reddit is great.
Yeah.
You get some
And then
locals.
most of my information came from actually a town website that I used
yeah.
for the area
That's
that I'm going to
legit.
talk about today.
Yep.
Cool.
But it was interesting because Reddit kind of broke it up into haunted and then more like a true crime aspect. So
Okay.
like some of the like legends and stories that I came across had to do like here was this really important person who went missing and what's
Okay.
the crime that may
Yeah.
have caused
I
that.
can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, hauntings was a big one, and then there's just like the anything historical. I feel like we talked a lot about witches, witches,
Which witches? Yeah.
witches,
Yes.
which is obviously an important part of
Yeah.
New England and the
Sure,
kind of
colonial times.
northern America
Yes.
historical
Yeah.
history.
I mean, like the
Absolutely.
Salem.
Oh yeah,
all that.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to differentiate from Salem today, though, because I'll let Massachusetts have it.
I don't want to
you know?
take
Yeah.
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 I mean, we are mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
We aren't actually New.
Well, Mr. Blaze actually brought up what I think I was going to possibly talk about, but you mentioned before this podcast, probably upstate New York's most local famous legend was obviously Sleepy Hollow.
Mhm.
We're
Yes.
playing the Sleepy Hollow soundtrack, but
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit, but because it's more of a literature,
Yeah.
it's more of a fake, clearly accounts.
Yeah.
Maybe not touch it as much. So
I have to admit, I'm not as familiar with the Sleepy Hollow folklore
Yeah.
as I
Yeah.
am with some others.
Okay.
So I'm
Did some-
interested to hear about
yeah, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we'll chat around a little bit about it.
Yeah. Yeah, like some are legit. And like outside of stuff we'll talk about too, I mean, I'm sure too, we all have our own stories of like experiences, like,
that. I just thought of another. Aliens.
oh, alien.
Right?
Oh.
Oh yeah, we did the
You
alien.
want to learn? We have
Alien.
episode all
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
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 That's an ever
That's
evolving
another
topic.
like
though.
yeah. That's another definite
Yeah.
like folklore legend.
Oh,
You know what I just recently learned? I'm going all over the place, but
It's okay.
this
It's
is
a podcast.
aliens
Yeah.
related. I just recently learned that the movie Fire in the Sky was based on a real event. I did not know that.
No.
So the movie Fire in the Sky is about a guy who gets abducted by aliens.
Mhm.
That movie, kids, do not watch it unless you really, really like scary, creepy things. Because I watched it when I was a kid. Actually, I didn't watch it. My parents were watching it, and I was supposed to be in bed. And I have a very clear core memory of me like peeking around the corner and looking into the living room and what my parents were watching. And it was this movie, and it was about an alien abduction, and it will never leave my brain.
Oh.
Like it will never leave my brain. But it also made me fascinated about
Sure.
the possibility and all that stuff.
Science behind it, yeah.
But I was listening to a podcast recently, and I can't tell you what the podcast was because I listen to so many. So it was
Oh,
a
yeah,
podcast
yeah.
that I listened to that was talking about the real events
Mhm.
that the alien abduction movie was based on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Local
There's
folklore
a lot.
of that area. It's actually in Massachusetts, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, another one too. Like, it could tie into there. You know, like we did a whole.
You're gonna bring up Bigfoot, aren't you?
You know it, right?
So look at
That's
his
a great
face.
one.
Right.
Like, here goes Bigfoot again.
Yep. Yep. Because
Yeah, he's.
I mean, there's a lot of local too. I mean, remember we
Sure.
did like when there was a Bigfoot map.
Yeah.
So like
He
you know
was
like a
literally,
heat
right
map.
out there in the woods.
Yeah,
That's
it
what I
was like
recall.
yeah, in the corner of Curry.
Oh,
and out
yes.
the- yeah, he was sighted at the company
Yeah.
picking up a
Sure.
Slurpee. Yeah, but
Yeah, oh, tons of those ones.
So
I think
that's
for this
another
though.
category, monsters.
Yeah.
monsters. Yeah,
cryptids.
you think of like the cartoon, you know, like Transylvania, you know, like the kids love
Sure.
that, you know,
Yeah.
it's like Dracula,
Yeah.
that sort of.
Now with this, the question you asked, though, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around it. What's it, Tuesday? Still getting
Yeah.
rusty
It's
things off
Tuesday.
here.
And it's Halloween. So it's
Halloween.
Yeah,
Yes.
Halloween. I like that.
Yes, need more candy to get the brain fired up.
Hear
Is
that.
this like real life, scary stuff, or is it more movie related, or
It could be a combination.
combination of them?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean,
Gotcha.
one of mine, I picked up two, and depending, I didn't know like what people were touching on. So, I have one. I mean, both kind of cross the line, but one is definitely a true life, kind of like you were talking about, true
Sure.
crime.
Yep.
And then a mixture, and then another one, is, you know, definitely more of like folklore. You
Yeah.
know, like, but
Okay.
maybe
Yeah, I'm right there
some
with you.
truth
Sure.
to it. So, good question. Leave that to the viewers to.
Sure.
But that's
choose.
what's cool about folklore. Is
Yeah.
that it's stories that have been passed down from generation to generation.
Yeah.
You know, there's a hint of truth, and maybe
Exactly.
it is completely true, or maybe it's not. It's just it's a local legend.
Yep.
Yeah, and, you know that's it. You move into a new area and you
Yeah.
feel like, oh, you didn't know about that. People live next to you. Did you know about
Yeah.
that? You know, like you get, oh, what's going on? You know, and like, is this guy a local crazy or am I?
That's another category.
Right. Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like
Sure.
the actual current people.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, right. I mean, there's always
Yep.
one in the town.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
One other one that I thought of too that I came across when I was researching is the Loch Ness monster-like monster in Lake Champlain.
Oh, Champion. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Did you guys
Yeah, we
remember that?
we
when
touched
you were-
on-
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a whole deep dive on cryptozoology because that was my jam growing up.
Yeah.
And that word I learned from
Yeah.
Just Wiki.
Yeah.
Did
We
not.
tried to talk about the plausibility, the scientific facts, the no ways.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but I did shoot down the Loch Ness monster. I don't think scientifically. I'd be curious about your perspective. Don't think the ecosystem could support it. Probably not the same story, or it probably is the same story with Champ.
Are you talking about
Yes.
Champ or the Loch Ness monster?
Loch Ness monster. I didn't research too
Okay.
much into Champ.
Okay.
I did swim in Lake Champlain as a kid, and I was always terrified of Champ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's big too.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, if you've never
Yeah.
been to the ocean,
Cold
one
and
would
deep,
think
yeah.
it's the ocean.
Sure.
I mean, I went to
Absolutely.
college in
Yeah, yeah.
Plattsburgh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a big
Yeah.
lake there.
Yes, we got them all. We got witches, monsters,
Yeah.
locations, aliens,
Mine's an insane asylum.
crazy neighbors. We all have crazy neighbors.
Yes.
Ooh. It's just like build it. Like, well, mine's an abandoned building.
Build. Yeah.
So there's
oh,
like
yeah.
the stories
Yeah.
about
Locations.
events that happen in locations.
Well, yeah, that's another thing I was saying at the end. If we have time, you know, I can talk about like a local experience.
Sure.
You know, like where stories were told.
It's like
Everyone
helping us
has
support
that.
things in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one house in the block where it's
Yeah.
don't go into that house.
No.
Or the,
Don't approach
trick,
it.
the
Don't
house
trick or
you
treat there.
definitely don't trick or treat at.
Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
They give out bad candy then too.
Yeah.
So the family that gives out apples and pencils.
Yeah.
Man.
No, don't go there, it's haunted.
Jeff for those Razor Blades kids.
Exactly.
Has anyone ever had that happen? Was
That's
there any
again folklore, the whole razor blades and candies and stuff.
Well, there is a true crime story, and it's very, very terrible about kids who did, in fact, receive poison candy.
Yeah.
And the perpetrator was unfortunately a relative, a close relative.
Oh.
And so they're like, it has happened.
Sure.
But I am not familiar. I'm not familiar with it having happened to like strangers, or like having it be a random act.
Right. Like some like premeditated,
Right.
deliberate.
I mean, the only case that I'm aware of was very much premeditated and very much intended
Sure.
Right.
to be
Well, that's good.
harmed. Yeah.
Halloween a couple days away.
But that's an interesting
Yeah.
story because we've
Sure.
all had
Heard of
to, had to check our
Check your
candy as
candy,
kids
kids.
to make
Right.
sure
Oh, I
that
know.
it's safe to eat.
Well,
that
maybe
there's
that's why a lot of
nothing-
times folklore has become cautionary tales
True.
too.
Yeah.
So now, like, clearly, if
True.
a stranger hands you like a handful of open candy on Halloween, you probably shouldn't eat it regardless.
Right.
Germs and all that kind of stuff.
What's your like, like we have little kids, right? Your kids are older, so like, what would be like your red flag in a
boy.
basket?
No, good question. The red flag being handed out to a basket. Well, obviously, again, I'm creeped out by anything unwrapped that somebody's actually touching.
Or
Okay.
if they put it in their own packaging. Like I've had like someone who makes popcorn and puts it in like
thank you.
in like a plastic bag. And
Sure.
I don't want that either.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, not even if like little like some things are in there, but like if they were thick. Nowadays, like you don't
Seriously.
know, and like the sanitary nature.
I've seen too many people not wash their hands in the bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not taking popcorn in a Ziploc baggie from somebody.
No, smart
Little
food,
baby.
pre-sealed,
Especially in the
That's
comfort
fine.
of their own home, too. Like,
Right. I
yeah,
understand why people
special
do it because
ingredients.
it's economical. But,
sure.
Yeah.
You got to keep your
That's a
immune
thanks, but no
system
thanks. You take it, oh, thank you, and then
Yes.
in the garbage.
Right.
No thanks.
Nothing scarier than just a random toothbrush, I guess, huh?
Random open toothbrush
Ooh.
and used.
Oh, a new one. I'd be into that.
Yeah.
Think
I say that my father-in-law.
That's an adult answer.
I like that.
My father-in-law is a dentist, so like my
Did
wife
he hand out
they had this. I mean,
Oh,
like they get like bucket of
I
like
love that.
toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Every time we stayed at their place when they used to like live, they live local now. They live in Saratoga, and they would like, oh, I forgot our tooth. Don't
Yep.
we got a closet full of
Love
those,
that.
and they also come out around Halloween.
As a kid, I would have loved that because it's different, but it's
Okay.
useful.
Yeah,
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
you've already got a ton of candy.
Right.
You've already got that. So when you get the toothbrush, it's like,
Yeah.
okay. this
Yeah,
is
it's
cool.
a reusable item, so it's not just a consumable
Sure.
at
Exactly.
that point. It's a tool.
Well, let's be real. How do we know we're getting old? We're getting pumped about
I know.
getting a free toothbrush.
Guys.
This could have been like $4 at Walmart.
You need to have the soft bristles. My gums are
I
tender.
know.
This is a steal.
With inflation, this is like a $7 toothbrush, everybody.
You guys see this? It's that battery pack on.
It came with floss, too.
I would rather the toothbrush instead of
Yeah.
the candy. I've got too much candy.
Training the kids, like, all right, what kind of like older people stuff you got? Like,
Yeah.
I got a pencil, give it to me.
Right. As teachers, pencils are
Full
gold.
3,000 pencils
They're
a day
gold.
here in school.
gosh.
Speaking of, I'll just pass this around.
Oh.
I had somebody I was talking to, Mr. Swicky, one of my students kind of it mysteriously disappeared from my
Oh,
classroom.
yes. I heard
And
the
then
tale.
mysteriously reappeared saying,
Oh,
Mr.
folklore.
Blaze,
Folklore.
did you notice you're missing this? And I'm like,
What a pitch.
I didn't. I was going to order another one because I loved it so much, but I'll pass it around.
So
and
wait, what happened? Did the student like accidentally take
They
your?
walked out with it or something.
They might have taken out, and
This is
it's
amazing.
very, very.
It is nice.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm bordering on obsessed with it. So
Know
like,
how you know
takes
you're old is when you admire your
Yeah.
friend's pencils.
Yeah.
right. But he
Yeah.
liked it,
Oh,
and
it's
I was
really
just
good.
like, I was
Oops.
watching him. Yeah, it's what you put in your pocket.
Just
It
lump
hides the
something.
tip, so you don't get jabbed in the leg.
Okay. Cool.
So
Yeah.
I mean, they, like I'm getting old, and can't wait to get those new pencils in the mail. The Amazon's delivering them today.
It's like half the
Wayne
reason I
Stationery.
became a teacher.
Yeah.
Supplies.
Oh, man.
Honestly.
I digress.
Yeah, sorry, kids.
Anyway.
Don't turn the show off.
Now,
Right.
fast forward
So we get to
15
this-
minutes later. Here we
Yeah,
go.
we're talking some
Folklore.
spooky stuff. Yeah. Halloween, what? A couple days? Today's Tuesday.
Yeah.
48 hours. Halloween.
So Eve, double
Yes,
Eve.
double Eve.
I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's give the kids some inspiration. Some local floor, I can't talk.
What?
Local lore
Yes.
from upstate New York.
Okay.
Now, I think a cautionary tale first is like, we'll talk about some places. Always be cautioned about like trespassing in certain
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
and safety and Don't cut through people's yards
Right.
or enter abandoned locations. etc.
Check with local law enforcement.
Yes,
if you're not
try to
sure.
put that PSA. Otherwise,
Yeah.
Any personal
Something.
experiences we may share are alleged.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Alleged.
Precisely.
Friends of friends.
Friends of friends that we've heard about.
They were passed down.
You hear
the
this from
grapevine.
us.
No?
Yeah. Does anybody want to dive in first and take it?
Sure.
Paper, scissors?
I can
Miss
go.
Niles?
I can
Yes.
go. All right,
Yeah,
so
I'd like
I,
to let
so,
that-
all right, so I struggled with this one just a little bit because the one I'm going to talk about today, I remember the most, and I have a personal experience with it. But I may never have allegedly visited this place, so I didn't want to give anybody any ideas. So we'll
No.
talk about how my friend
Yes.
Yeah.
to go visit
Your friend,
this place.
Mrs. Amazon? Still
Yep.
Niles?
Yep,
Yeah.
Amazon. Yep.
Your friend, Miss Mississippi?
Yep.
Mississippi.
SSI,
Different rivers,
SSI, Yep. So, so I'm going to talk about what we as kids called the local insane asylum.
Oh.
It was told to us as being an abandoned insane asylum that is haunted.
Naturally.
And it's in Schenectady County, which is the same county where we teach. And I may have known someone who has visited it before.
Oh, okay.
And
Secondhand knowledge.
Yeah.
some secondhand knowledge.
My friend that goes to a different school, you don't know that.
Yeah.
So the story is that it's an abandoned insane asylum that was like literally just left. Everything was left in place. That there's like medical gurneys and that there's medical equipment. And if you go there, you're going to find all of this cool stuff that it just looks like time stopped and everybody just went away for whatever reason. And that just sounds cool.
Yeah.
Like that just like that is inviting people to come
Sure.
and like try to find cool things, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, some people I know may have went and gone to that place and maybe had to climb over a fence and in through a broken window to
Right.
get into that place. But
Allegedly.
at the time, allegedly, that this happened, which was in the early 2000s, so about 20 years ago. So it was a while ago.
Yeah.
So
The
Anthony
place-
statute
the place
of
existed.
limitations,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Can't be
100%. Yeah, absolutely. The place existed. And this person's alleged firsthand account did confirm that this stuff existed.
Wow.
Like there was furniture all over the place, a lot of office supplies.
Right.
Not like, you know, super scary, insane asylum medical
Like
equipment.
needles lying
Nothing
around,
like that.
crazy things to hold
Electrical
in
shock
place.
Nothing like
Yes,
that.
chairs.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
like,
electromasks.
there were
Yeah.
very large pieces of furniture, like
Perfect.
large beds, like
Yeah.
large
You just need a
file
file
cabinets,
cabinet,
like like large desks and
Stuff
stuff.
you could use to redecorate it.
Yeah.
Possibly if you're going for that like abandoned vibe, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
But-
Come back in style.
we like I'm sorry, not we. The person who went, the person who went to this place.
Are you
was-
telling us this wasn't
was-
you?
I plead the fifth.
Edit out that last
Good
part.
sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
The person who went to this place was really looking more for like the haunted vibe because it's alleged to be haunted, and
Right.
so
Sure.
unfortunately that experience was not had, but it was just still a really cool place to see because of how like stuck in its abandoned state that it was.
Yeah. Like it's just
Um,
frozen in time.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly,
That's-
exactly.
I like that idea.
And so I do remember learning after the fact that it was not an insane asylum. Like
Yeah.
we, you know, were told that it was a
Yep.
tuberculosis treatment center.
Mhm.
And so that's just all I knew about it from, you know, having heard about this person go visit it and then actually, you know, doing the research on it, which I did do the other day. And I did learn that it was in fact a tuberculosis treatment center and it was called the Glen Ridge Sanatorium. Doesn't the word sanatorium just
Super
sound
creepy.
kind of creepy?
Yeah.
So I looked it up and a sanatorium is just a medical facility that treats chronic illnesses.
Sanitary.
Exactly.
Sure.
So, and they usually have some kind of specialization. And so this particular place specialized in tuberculosis.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it opened in the early 1900s and it was established in Schenectady County because, and you probably know about this, but FDR, I guess, when tuberculosis and some other chronic illnesses started to started to rise in the United States.
Yeah, there.
He signed a public healthcare legislation that allowed for sanatoriums to develop in the county, each individual county in every state.
Of course I do.
So yeah,
I know all
I
these
knew you
yes,
would.
yes.
I knew you would. And so this was actually established in Schenectady County as Schenectady County's like federally funded
Official
sanatorium. Yeah, and
Okay.
specifically treated tuberculosis because the individuals who were responsible for founding it believed in the fresh air treatment for tuberculosis.
That was a big movement at the time.
It was, yeah. And so I guess Robert Livingston Trudeau, he's a young physician who found some healthcare benefits in the Adirondack Mountains up at Saranac Lake. He believed completely in healthy air and environment contributing to like curing lung disorders like tuberculosis. Now we now know that tuberculosis is caused by a bacteria and that the best treatment is antibiotics.
Right.
But there is no cure for it, though.
There is no
Still,
cure
gotcha.
for it, but there's
Okay.
treatments for it.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was interesting because, you know, we are very happy and love the fact that we live in a mountainy area, I
Sure.
guess.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the Adirondack
Fresh
Mountains
mountain
are
air.
Oh, yeah.
right in our
Yeah,
backyard.
seriously.
This isn't quite the Adirondack Park, but it's close enough, and I do live in the Adirondack Park,
Yeah.
which was why that was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah,
But-
really close.
Yeah, like super close. But it was also interesting to me that when tuberculosis was no longer a problem, they had no real use for this facility.
Sure.
Right.
It's abandoned.
Right.
So when they started to come up with some more viable treatments for tuberculosis, they tried to switch it into a general hospital, but it didn't have enough use, I guess, or
Right.
it didn't have enough reasons to keep it open. And so it was purchased by a private company, the same company that owns a local facility called Conifer Park, which we might be
Oh,
familiar
yeah.
with. It's,
Yep.
it's right around the corner.
Right, yep.
And then nothing was done with it. So it's
So now
I don't know if it's still there.
Just
Like it was on
decays
my
with time.
list to like try to drive
Yeah.
by it to see if it's even still there, but I don't know. But I can tell you 20 years ago, my
Allegedly.
friend told me that it was still there. Now I know
Yeah.
like this was something that we talked about in high school when we were like teenagers and you know, of the like age to drive. I
Right.
did come across an article from one of our local newspapers, the Schenectady Gazette. And this was a few years ago. I want to say it was like 10 years ago. So it's still, you know, a fairly long time ago, where some officials were talking about this place as being a location where teenagers would like to go to try to explore it and how dangerous that it was.
Well,
So there was
yeah.
some talk about the fact that it did need to be torn down
Sure.
or
Well, it gets to a point depending on, like, I remember there's there's a hotel, I forgot the name of it, that was in the Adirondacks. It's like on, not a high peak mountain,
Yeah.
but the hotel is built up there. And I mean, think about the road to get there. I mean, it's pretty steep of a
sure.
climb.
and you got to
But
think about
it-
time of year too. Like if
Right.
you're trying to go in the winter time, forget it.
And it was made of wood, burnt down, and then they made it of stone, and then they had big wood structures up there to kind of hold the floor, but you could see like where obviously it's in disrepair, you can go into and explore because it's like on the mountain part of the path, but depending on what they used, you know, like floors could collapse, you
Yeah.
know, electrical. I know some of these places, like people go in and like
That was a
strip
big-
it for
Yeah.
whatever the wires, like copper is like crazy expensive. And
That was a big concern of my friend.
Yeah.
Was the like structural integrity of the building because
Yeah.
it is a big building.
right.
So being in there and you know wandering around in a huge building that,
Right.
that has been there for close to 100 years at that point,
You don't know.
you don't
like,
know what's
no.
stable, and that's scary.
And then if said person was there and got hurt,
Exactly.
and
yeah.
you're kind of in a pickle.
Right.
So
Yeah. Especially when this
PSA,
person had to call
sure.
through a window to get into
yes.
inside of the
Oh
building.
boy. Well, yeah. Because imagine if one were to go there, that like doors would not be readily available,
Yes.
and they'd have like an attendant at the door
Right.
for you.
Right.
Probably some cameras of some nature. Yes.
Yes.
Well, that also goes. So that was 20-ish years ago.
Right.
Who knows what kind of technology is, you know, covering the place, if it even is still there, or
Sure.
would cover a place
Oh,
like this
right.
now
Right,
to make sure
depending
that
on-
nobody messes with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just the idea of exploring somewhere that you're not supposed to be,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
having heard like that it's
Probably
a
at
haunted
night,
place.
yes, too.
It was at night.
Yeah.
That friend told me.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah. secrecy. Of
A
mind,
place
yes.
that's a place that has a sordid, it didn't, but a sordid history. You know,
Right,
the folklore
right, sure.
is that it was an insane asylum.
Right.
You know, like just thinking about what you might discover
I know,
inside.
Well,
Street
yeah.
jackets.
Any like paranormal activity
Yeah.
that's going on,
You have
and
to
even
imagine
absolutely.
people may have passed away there if
Right,
they were
of
being
course,
treated for a
definitely.
medical illness. And
right.
so
I mean,
tortured
the treatments.
spirits were
I
still
mean,
there.
you mentioned some of the treatments, but you know, like in these asylums and mental health places too, like the true mental health. I mean, the techniques used
back
then-
before we knew anything about how
I mean,
to properly treat someone with mental health.
I mean, what was it like?
Yeah.
The like a hammer, like
Oh, yeah,
like
a lobotomy.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
called
I'm
an
like,
ice pick lobotomy.
it's like Cro-Magnon style. There, you know, like a rock and
Sure.
And it was a
That's
very
the best
popular
time.
method of
Yeah.
treatment. And sometimes,
Sure.
and that actually kind of like segues into witches. Talking about
Good segue.
yeah.
talking about how if you as a human being or maybe of a group of people that was seen as less than
Yeah.
did not fit the mold,
Persecuted.
yep, then or maybe you had a strong personality or maybe you didn't want to live in whatever role
Yeah.
society deemed you should live in.
Right.
They found ways to try to either force you into that role or say that you were not fit to be a part of society.
You're broken.
You're broken,
Like
yeah.
ostracized
Yeah.
and yeah, it's just
And either you're removed,
crazy. Like to have
you're
lived in that sort of
Yes.
time, like I
Yeah.
couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, it was like black and white.
I was gonna say, sign me up for that life. How do you sign up for that secluded,
Well,
ostracized life?
I think about that often because
Oh wait, you gotta go live in the woods by yourself?
That's it. I think
I mean,
about that all the time
yeah.
because all the things that I want to do, I probably 100 years ago
Yeah.
would be viewed as not
Very suspicious. Yeah.
like
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
normal,
right.
and that's terrible because I am very normal
Yes.
in my own way.
Everyone can choose their own normal.
Exactly.
I mean,
Maybe that just says it's a telling sign of the times though. Like we're just so inundated with everything. And be here and show up for this meeting and connect to your phone and this.
tether.
It sounds kind of nice to be untethered and say, yeah, like the person I'll talk about, like find me in the woods all by myself in a cave, like leave me alone.
Well, going back to like
Sounds
yeah, like
unpleasant.
Into the Wild, Christopher McCandless.
Yeah.
You know, like you just
Exactly.
wanted to escape and prove.
Sure.
And I mean, look at Alaska.
Yeah,
I mean, the
Dangerous.
most like uninhabited
sure.
amount of land within a given state. I mean, it's a huge state. People don't even think about Alaska like this. Like it's like Hawaii. You know, like it's like almost like it's like so
It's
far
not
away.
actually on the map down below California.
no, it's not an island.
not really
of
there,
Hawaii.
yes.
Yeah,
It's too
depending on
big to put on the
the
map.
cartographer.
Yes. I've had many people say, wait, it's not down there next to Hawaii?
Yeah.
As a social
Yeah.
studies teacher, I'm sure that
Yeah.
just ices your heart over.
I weep every time I hear that. But
Well,
yeah. I'm going to run with that segue, though, because that's a perfect
yeah,
segue.
okay, nice.
Yes, mine. I've always been fascinated with Saratoga. It's probably one of our more famous towns in upstate New York for the racetrack, but has a long-standing history for many reasons. There's true crime that happened there. There's casinos. There's obviously got the racetrack that started 1863 in the middle of the Civil War. But a cool, creepy local legend that I found, just the name alone screamed awesome, is the Witch of Saratoga. Now, that's kind of a lesser known thing. You usually think about Salem with witchcraft or over in England somewhere with covens and such. But apparently we had a local legend that resulted after the American Revolution. So I'm going to tell you guys quickly the story of Evangeline Tubbs. So the story goes, Evangeline Tubbs came to America with her fiance, who was in the British military, and the Battle of Saratoga, which actually was fought in Schuylerville, yeah, little misnomer there, is approaching. So the story goes that as the battle's approaching, her fiance chickens out. He's kind of a coward. And back then, especially in the British military, you were extremely ostracized if you don't fulfill your duty to king and country. So the fiance flees back to Europe, and obviously too shameful to kind of accept the reality of his deeds. And in the process, he abandons his fiance, Evangeline, at the exact same time. Not quite sure why he did. Maybe he felt ashamed. He didn't feel like, I can support this woman if I can't even fight this war.
Sounds like he has commitment issues.
Probably a little bit. Maybe he kind of masked that, like, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, I'm just afraid, goodbye.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyways, he's out of the picture. He flees back to England, and he leaves poor Evangeline all by herself in the New World. Now, obviously, if you know anything about 7th grade history, so please pay attention, kids that are listening,
Tune in.
the local American colonialists that supported England were the Tories. And they weren't always very popular in New York because there's lots of patriotism here. So you'd rather be on the Patriot side than the Tory or the Loyalist side. But Evangeline, because she had a connection to a British officer, is seen by the local town populace as being kind of a traitor to the American cause. So flash forward a little bit, after the Battle of Saratoga, America kicks butt, it's our turning point. We win the Revolutionary War, and it's yay, America. But then you still have Evangeline, who's all by herself. Now, my heart does feel bad for her. Like, it's got to be tough at whatever age she was.
Right.
There's no indication, but you can guess probably
Probably
20s, probably 20s, 30s.
Oh, yes.
She has nobody to take care of her. And back then, sadly, this is a time in society when women weren't really allowed to kind of go out and make her own profession or career. So, unfortunately, she was more reliant on having a man, which is not the way society should run. But because she is on her own, the townspeople instantly kind of see her as an odd person, as ostracized, a little bit weird, as not fitting the mold. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, she has no employment, no income. She is struggling to feed herself. So she has no other choice really but to leave the populated area of Saratoga and move to the outskirts of the town. Now, I tried to research the heck out of where it was actually talking about. Every source I kept finding just kept on saying the outskirts, the woods. But some people do claim it was right around where Skidmore campus is.
Oh,
I guess there's some like wooded areas.
Yeah, there's bike trails over there.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it could be there. Other people claim near Lafenberry Lake. It's a little kind of reservoir up the road a little bit more.
Yep.
So it could be in those areas which are still wooded today. So here's where the lore begins. So obviously she's out in the woods kind of by herself, very Sanderson Sisters vibe from Hocus Pocus. And the townspeople are constantly talking. What's she doing out there? How's she surviving? Like, what's going on? And the few people from Saratoga that kept on trying to visit, well, clearly, the more time she spends out in the woods, she's more disheveled looking. She's kind of falling apart with her appearance and her clothes. So she has that appearance of like the quote-unquote witch. But then to make ends meet, she's also supplementing income by doing things like little magical readings or possibly like making little potions for people out of like natural elements. So very like woods kind of witchcraft.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, the people just distance themselves more and more from her. She develops that real reputation of being a witch, being out in the woods and casting spells and hexes. It's rumored some people would go and talk to her if they needed like a curse on somebody or a hex. And, you know, I can't blame her. Maybe she's the smart one. If somebody shows up and says, hey, I'll pay you $50 if you make a hex for me. She's like, okay, sure, no problem.
Some money, yeah.
Let me slap together some pine cones and some mud and here you go.
Right, call it what you will.
Yeah, so she really developed that reputation of doing magic and performing. And then, of course, like all these stories started spreading about her. People claim they see her out in the middle of a thunderstorm, like chanting to the sky. And, you know, who knows what that was? Maybe it's a free shower outside. I'm not sure if you're
Communicating with Sasquatch.
Yes, exactly, possibly.
Yes.
Rounding up the local ones. So she lives a pretty long life. I want to say almost to her 100s. She dies in the 1800s. And she just always had that reputation of kind of living on the outskirts, practicing witchcraft. And there's all the rumors today. I don't personally subscribe to them, but I say if you go and find these places on a dark, stormy night, you can still hear her chanting to the storms, or they can see her vision on top of like a bluff.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. I've been to Skidmore campus, but I've never seen anything personally. But it's kind of a cool one.
It is.
What I like about that was she was allowed to just live her life.
Live her life, yeah.
Yes.
She had to make
Yeah,
her
she
own
was,
way.
yeah.
This isn't like the Salem stories where
Right.
we all know the ending of
Right, there's
Nope.
like
You're
there's
weird,
no
we're gonna hate you.
pitchforks
Yes.
and torches and
Sure.
crosses and all that sort of
Yeah.
yeah.
I
But it
almost
was
wonder.
well after that. It was about, what,
Yeah,
500
right,
years
right.
after
Yeah,
Salem?
that was the 1690s.
Yeah.
But still, like witchcraft was still very persecuted, very punishable
Oh,
by
yeah.
death.
Yeah, it's just well again talking about like the treatments of like the people like that were ostracized,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just like if anything you didn't know, this
Yeah.
wasn't familiar,
Sure.
you know.
Yeah, there's, like, people
Stuff's
sitting
happening.
around
I'm not sure why. It just
Sure.
you're bad. Go.
But yeah, the reality of it is, again, being a history person, it's just so sad to see how societies treated different groups of people differently back then. So like,
Yeah.
obviously women didn't have nearly any rights. So there's
No.
no way she could have came forward and said, look, I need some kind of social assistance or social security or whatever the case was. You know,
Right.
it truly
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, because you didn't marry this guy, like now you're on your own. Which is,
Right.
you know,
Probably
Not-
you couldn't own
Well,
property. and
yeah,
probably,
right.
You know.
And
couldn't go to court. Yeah.
right, and you feel for her in a way because you know she's kind of like an outcast, but it's not like we don't know like of what the relationship was
Sure.
or why she couldn't, you know. And you think nowadays as teachers we're taught to like you know like I was kind of an outcast. I was an artist.
Yeah.
But I was like never fit into a clique. So I would seek others out that were like me, like other artists, and but I never came into a group. And I think we're taught to kind of like, like help the kids out. Don't leave a kid at a lunch table, like I tell our kids, sitting by themselves. Be a good,
Find some connection.
be a good friend. Imagine it was you, right? It could be you down the road. And you don't ever want to be put in that situation. So be a good friend. Moral of the story.
Maybe I shouldn't have said the whole thing about like that I want to be like left alone.
No, that sounds wonderful. Also, I was having this conversation earlier today, and it was with another teacher, and we were talking about how, as teachers, we kind of have to be extroverted at work.
Right.
Like we have
It's
to
expected.
be. It's almost like a performance when you're teaching to a class.
very
You're
much.
trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
engage the
Teaching's
kids.
like
You're
80% acting.
100%. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree.
But a lot of us aren't really true extroverts
Right.
in our own personal lives.
True.
And so it can be very draining when you go to work every day and you bring the energy and you put on the performance.
Put on this mask. Yep.
And you
Yeah.
and you do it all for the kids so the
Yeah.
kids get excited about learning. But when I go home, I need to be alone.
Yeah. Sure.
I want my cabin in the
Yeah.
woods by myself with nobody around
Yep.
me.
Yeah.
Here at school, I'm
Yeah.
surrounded by people constantly.
That's probably a lot of
and I do-
society, too.
And I do like it.
Right.
I like that balance.
Yeah.
But I can understand being completely okay
Yeah.
with wanting your
We're
own
just
little...
done with peopling today. It's called.
Yeah.
No more peopling.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I agree with that. My brother-in-law is like that. Like he is. One of his favorite things to do is like he and I would go on hikes with my son. We've been doing hike, and a lot of times we won't be like talking. We'll just be out there quiet and just absorbing nature and all this.
You're still enjoying each other's company.
And that's his favorite place. He likes that. But my wife explained it to me like, but he's a phenomenal teacher. And he's at a party, hanging out with people, like he's a social
Yeah.
life. He's great. But she's like, his social battery is drained.
Yeah.
Now you need a recharge, and the only way to do that is to not have any outside input, stimuli. I need
Sure.
to have me and my book, insert your favorite quiet time activity,
Some headphones. Yep.
Yeah.
go for a walk with a dog.
I think that's another important lesson
Cool.
for our kids is, be a good friend, but also be good to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recognize when you need some time.
And be able
away
to
and
communicate
alone.
that too, right? So
Yeah.
like, look, I'm not mad at you. I just need some me time.
The term self-care kind of irks me for some reason.
Yeah.
It was just thrown at us so much
I know.
when we went through the COVID.
That whole COVID thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That it just took on like a negative feel for some
Yeah,
reason. But I
right.
do think that the idea of being able
Oh,
to
totally.
recognize and take care of yourself is important.
Right. Because sometimes you don't like. I mean, I have to. My wife has to tell me. Like, hey, you need to do a little you thing.
Yes.
Run, do something.
Sure.
This vibe is not working right now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll go out. I'll go for a run. I'll get all my stupid out, and I come back. I'm like,
Yeah, that's why the man cave was invented too. Like,
yes.
go on the man cave.
Go recharge.
Go
your
watch your dumb
manliness.
shows.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Or girls go out for girls' night. Like it's equally
Girls' night, the
important.
she shed. All of this
You know,
stuff.
we're going out to
We all
a
need it.
concert next weekend. Like just my friends. And I'm like, it's important. You have some guy. I think it's just that recognizing the balance, and sometimes you need a person to tell you, like I do, or sometimes if you're really good at being like self-aware,
Yeah.
that's a skill.
I hear you. So, yeah.
Searching with
Research a
Very
little bit
cool.
more if anybody
Yeah.
finds out more. I don't want to like really admit to it, but a lot of people online were able to debunk this story in many ways too.
Yeah.
The whole
that's
like,
why it's
but yeah,
folklore.
but exactly.
It's
So
okay. That's what's cool about
Yeah.
it.
right. The pure
Believe
fact
what
it
you
still
want.
persists. It was really tied to one photograph that people claimed was of her. It turned out to be like a promotional photo for some 1800s company or something. So
Maybe
it's
the
a little bit
photo wasn't
dismayed.
of
Yeah,
her,
right.
but that doesn't necessarily
Representative, maybe.
debunk her
Yes.
story,
Right.
Very
her
true.
existence.
But that's again the beauty of folklore. It's like there could be one tiny piece of truth,
Right.
the whole story develops around it. So
So that's it.
Yes.
Pictures are painted, stories,
Absolutely.
and everyone like fishtail. Like everyone
Yes.
remembers it a little bit different. It was this big. It was that big. It was 6 feet tall. No, it was 10.
Yes. Very cool. Well, speaking of retreating to the woods and such, maybe we'll take a little break and then we'll
Yes.
regroup and come back and we'll keep on talking folklore.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, we're back from our little hiatus as Mr. Swicky is off into the woods, and we will continue.
Hunting the Saratoga Witch.
Yes,
Not hunting, that's negative.
right.
Exploring to
Exploring,
maybe visit.
investigating,
Yes.
forensics.
You never know what you'll find out there in the woods.
No, not at all. Speaking of which, I know you had mentioned, Mr. Swicky was not, I don't know, maybe as into it as I was, but you had no idea about like the Sleepy Hollow.
No, so Sleepy Hollow is obviously incredibly famous.
Right.
It's got a lot of historical, connections, and the Headless Horseman is obviously a legend, a fictional character, whatever you want to call him, it.
Right.
But
right.
I don't know a lot about it. I've never been to Sleepy Hollow.
Nope.
I've seen the movie that came out a while ago with like Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci. Do you remember that movie?
I was playing before we started the podcast.
Okay.
That's that song, like we played Instrumental Halloween, that was on there.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's so funny. I'm like, I don't know why. I've seen a lot of Johnny Depp movies, but like I've never seen that one. So
I've seen it, but it's not very memorable for me. And I
Okay.
know that for some of my friends, like we have Halloween movie rotations.
Right.
And like I always watch certain movies during the spooky season, and that's not one of mine, but I know it is in the rotation for some of my friends.
right.
So I'm interested. I would love to go at some point, but I just don't know enough about it. So I'm interested to hear
Yes.
more.
Yes. Yeah, so I was fascinated by it, and it's interesting because one of the characters in the story is a short story, so it was Ichabod.
Yeah, Ichabod
Crane.
Yeah.
So and it's so funny because around here we have
A school.
named Ichabod Crane, which actually has its own like little
It does.
lore of like, because when I was growing up, and same with you probably, like a flake of snow was dropped and the
Not
school was
even.
closed.
It would
prediction.
They would predict snow for the next day. It didn't even matter how much. In Ichabod Crane, the school district,
Yeah.
would always close.
Right.
Always close.
Yeah.
And so we were like always told, oh, it's because they have lots of hilly roads, and
Yeah.
oh, it's because the driving is so difficult there as it is. But we were always so mad. Always wanted to be like, Mom, Dad, can we move there so we can have snow days all the time?
Oh, I know. Well, now I don't know if there's truth, and I didn't research this in my end of the story here, but I could have sworn I remember when I went with my mom. They were getting like car work done, and we were sitting in the waiting room, and while the car was getting work done, and there was a guy that I don't know was a bus driver there or knew of it, but that there had been a horrific, a bad accident, a bus accident, because of those hilly roads. So I don't know if there were deaths, but I imagine like
I'd have
it was
to
bad
imagine it
enough.
would be, yeah.
It would have to like have something
Major.
extreme. Like the reason why there's a stoplight somewhere or a stop
Right.
sign is because
Right.
something bad happened.
We had
sometimes.
something similar happen at where I went to school, and I don't remember the incident because I think it had happened after I graduated.
Yeah.
But I believe it was a teacher who was in a bad accident, who was
Yeah.
driving to school on a snowy
Yeah.
morning.
So something
Yeah.
driving like, again.
And my
Folklore,
district,
right?
so
Yeah.
I went to Shenandoah.
Okay.
My district was notorious for never closing. Never closing.
Right.
Like, ever.
Right.
So, obviously we were very, very, very jealous of the Ichabod
Of
Crane.
course, you're like, oh, they got it.
Yep, they got the snow day.
Well, I mean, to date myself, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but when I found out, I would listen to like 95.5 FM radio, and we all like, shh, turn it up.
Yep.
And we'd all be like listening around, and
Yep.
it was alphabetical. And if you came in at the wrong time, I gotta wait.
Listen to the
There's
whole
15
thing
more
again.
minutes, and I gotta
Yep.
wait. And
now
we got some new
it's-
ones added.
Yeah.
And then like drum roll.
We would have it on the news.
Yes.
So we were like the family that would always put the news on in the morning as we
Yeah.
were getting ready
Yeah.
for breakfast and stuff. And so the news being on in the morning was pretty normal for us.
Yeah.
But they would have that ticker tape going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think they actually still do if you
I think
if
so.
you watch the news now.
I know.
So
know. It's
many
like,
people don't even do that.
I know.
But it's the same thing. Like if you missed your school district, you'd have to, wait until it comes back around.
Yeah,
See it.
yeah, it was a whole big thing,
Yeah.
and it kind of like like this whole folklore of it, like Ichabod Crane there, you know, and it's obviously hundreds of years after, but I found that interesting. I'm like, I don't know if like the school's tied to like the story or.
Well, it's got, isn't he a real person? Like, wasn't he a real? Like, I don't know about it.
Yeah. So let me see here. I gotta put the specs on here. So, yeah, it was. Well, everyone remembers, you know, like the headless horseman, and I'm like, is it the Headless Horseman? You know, like Ichabod Crane, like different. Are they different stories? Sleepy Hollow, and yeah, you know, Sleepy Hollow is like this Headless Horseman guy. So, but origins, OG stories. So, Ireland and Germany, you know, like around the same time. You know, you talk early 1800s. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce it. Dullahan, Dullahan. So these are all different equivalents of Headless Horseman in different.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So you have that. This is the guy who actually carries a head under his arm, and he is like the symbol of like death.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a variant of the Grim Reaper, you know. And then you also have, so that was like Ireland, and then another one, like another story is in Germany. Similar, I don't have a lot of information about like the German part, but like just I like the different name.
Yeah.
And I'll put some images of these in the podcast. Okay. One's called the Wild Huntsman. Now he has his head, but he is out there. They showed him kind of like with a javelin type spear, riding on a horse, and he goes around hunting souls. So another one kind of like another Grim Reaper variant. So two guys that you wouldn't really want to meet up with.
And I feel like the Sleepy Hollow Headless Horseman is kind of like a joining of those two.
Right.
Because the one doesn't have a head, and he's also riding horse.
Right. Yeah, they're on the horse. Well, all the guys, whether it's American, Irish, or German, all are on a horse. Okay. One is with head, one is sans head. Okay. So, so it's Washington Irvine wrote the story of, you know, it was actually a short story, and I'll put, I just thought it was really neat. I did a little research and found, you know, like on Amazon, you know, like where the books are. So probably on our Facebook page, maybe if I can put them on Instagram, I'm not sure, but I'll put some links on there so people can find out, like, oh, I want to read the actual story. Because I think, you watch the movie, and we were talking about that, and sometimes the movie doesn't live up to the book. We did a whole episode on that. Like, did the movie
Very rarely does it.
No, it doesn't. You know, like, or it was good, but it wasn't long enough. Yep. You know, and
right, because you can't take a long book and then put it into a 1.5 hour movie.
No, and then sometimes, and you want to bear with, like, a big Lord of the Rings fan, and I think we need to do an episode on that sometime. Yeah. But Return of the King, the unedited version, I'm trying to think if I've actually watched that. It was 4.5 hours long. Yeah. Raise your hand in a crowded room of people that would want to stay for a 4.5 hour long movie.
Literally no one.
Attention spans to look at YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, so that's where we're competing with.
And that's where it should be broken down into a series. Like, you know, 45-minute episodes. Yeah. You do like 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, like they've had good success with like Game of Thrones. Yep. I'm watching another one.
Well, they're turning the Harry Potters into a series.
Oh, I thought I remember reading about that.
So the Harry Potter movies, I love them because I love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I read all the books, and it's the same thing. There's so much that's not covered in the movies that are in the books. You just can't because they're supposed to be for kids. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you include the important elements of the story.
Yes.
So they are turning them into a series, which I'm very torn about because I want to see all of those awesome parts of the book that weren't incorporated into the movies, but I also love movies.
Well,
so
and who's going to play them? Right, the roles. So like you're used to, like, you ever watch like cartoons? Like, I mean, The Simpsons are known for. I'm actually going back through. I watched them. I grew up on them, and if they ever change for a little while, voice actor.
Oh, you know,
you're like, ew,
it's not the same person.
I can't watch that. Yeah. Or like animation looks a little different. You know, like it's
or if it's not quite pictured, if the casting isn't quite right. So if they do turn a book into a movie, and what I, as the character picture, doesn't line up with who is cast into the role.
Right.
It loses something for me.
Yeah, it's like it's a huge disconnect. Yeah. I think that's like with the book. I'd like to maybe go back and see if I can find. Might be able to find out your local library, just older. Sure. I don't know like how many pages it is. I imagine it's short story. It's gonna be a short read.
Yeah.
But
I've never read it.
Yeah.
I consider myself a fairly educated person.
Right?
I know of it, and I guess I didn't even realize it was a short story.
Yeah.
But I have never read it, and I took a class in college called American Short Story.
Okay.
And I did not read this.
Interesting, yeah. And I learned about Harry Potter. I didn't get into Harry Potter until, let's see, when was it, 2000? Yeah, 2001. I had to take one extra class, but I didn't finish at my main college of Plattsburgh. I went to SUNY Albany and took Introduction of Children's Literature into the curriculum.
That's great.
So I read Harry Potter as 21, 22-year-old.
Yeah, but you probably loved it.
I loved it. And you know what I did? I was a geek. So I actually was able to find a way to put it on an iPod, and the click wheel on it. I was reading it on there, and I got hooked. I'm like, I actually haven't seen all the movies yet, but I got up to 5, which was
Order of the Phoenix
Order
is
of the
5,
Phoenix.
Half-Blood Prince is 6, and then Deathly Hallows, which is the 7th book, is broken up into
2 parts. Yes, yeah. So I haven't seen 6 or the 2 parts.
6 is my favorite movie.
Okay.
And my favorite book.
Yeah.
Half-Blood Prince.
I might have to go back and rewatch some of those from that one.
And what I also like about Harry Potter, so I started reading the books when I was in middle school. That's when they came out.
Okay.
And then, I just thought they were cool. Because I was
really
into
neat.
kind of spooky stuff. Like I read Goosebumps and R.L. Stein books and kind of thriller books. But, this was a different vibe. And it was definitely more gauged towards little kids.
Yeah.
But what I liked about it was that it got more mature and the content matter got more dark
with the characters
as they got older.
Yeah.
And I liked that about it because I read the last book when I was maybe 21, 22.
Okay.
So when you were reading the first book, I had read the last book, and it was funny. I had a really long commute. I was living in Boston at the time.
Okay.
And one of my good friends' fathers, for my birthday, burned me the entire Deathly Hallows book onto CDs because this was before Bluetooth in your car. And I had to use CDs to listen to books in my car.
Oh, that's
my
so
2007 car that I had. And I loved the book so much that I wanted to continue listening to it outside of the car. But the only thing I had was my old school Discman from when I was a kid.
Discman,
I would walk around the city of Boston holding my Discman out in my hands like this so it wouldn't skip.
Oh, I know. CDs. People don't know how easy it is nowadays.
Yeah, so I read the last book by listening to it on CDs, either in my car or on my Discman.
Yo, isn't that funny though? That you remember it though, because it's such a unique setup.
It was, yeah.
And just making it work. I read it on iPod, and you listened to it on CD.
Yep.
And, I mean, those things are like the Smithsonian now. I think.
Actually, I think they are in museums.
Yeah.
I think they legitimately are in museums.
Well, when I worked at Best Buy. Years and years ago. I mean, I was like you remember when they had HD, DVD, and Blu-rays? It was competing technologies within high definition. And so they had a whole section of that. But majority of Best Buy, I would dare say a third, if not more, was devoted to physical media.
I believe it.
Like CD, I don't even know if they had tapes, but like CDs, DVDs, Blu-rays, and I got my first TV there and stuff. But now it's there's nothing, no physical media. No. But it was funny. You know what I had? My wife got me for Christmas.
For this year or last year?
This year, this past year, yeah. Okay. So 2020.
So you
Yeah.
2023. Yeah.
Got me a record player.
Nice. Yeah.
Because they're coming back in.
Turntable.
Yeah, turntable. Yeah, record turntable. So I love it, and I went down, and my son, we went to an old it was called Last Vestige in Albany, where you have to there's tons of I mean, you literally could spend all day, and I'm like, my son's like, you find what you want? I'm like, no, I'm like a deer in headlights.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
It is, but worst thing I did do, I didn't pick out things I was looking for before
Yeah.
I went there. So it's like going on Pinterest and figuring it out.
Impossible to do. Yeah.
The black hole.
Yeah. Impossible.
The black hole. So
All right, Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy
We're on
Hollow,
track.
back
Yeah.
on track. So it was in like a Terrytown area.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a little bit south of us, not too far. I've never been, and now like after doing some research, we were talking about exploration of like the places like friends of yours went, and I'd love to go down there. But the neat thing about there's lots of other fun things to do there, like traditions they have.
Okay.
Now. So now we did the European origins, the American inspiration, inspired 1820 short story, like I said, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Washington Irvine, which you can get if I click here. I will tell you. I know I put it up on Amazon. Worked for me. All right. So it is. Oh, it's a classic tale, and we have. Oh my God. Oh, $11. You can get it on Kindle for 30 cents.
Wow.
Or audiobook
Why do they
for
even...
99.
Nice. I was gonna say, why do they even charge you?
I mean, seriously, that's like penny candy.
Yeah.
Just give it to me
Yeah.
at this point. So that's pretty cheap. So go out and get it on Amazon or local library for free. So there was a soldier. The legend is, you can hear like
Right.
a guy was just riding his horse. I almost said riding his bike. Not back then, 1820s. And he was nearby in Terrytown. So Sleepy Hollow is like an actual. I don't know what they call those. Like it was like sub towns within a town. Forgot what
Hamlet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the word that escaped me. Hamlet. And he was out there just riding his Ichabod crane. Like the school we were just talking about. And allegedly, it's based off of a real person that Robert Irvine, had met.
Okay.
So, like, he was kind of like a quirky guy, and I think he was actually a soldier, too. So, and he was going across, and lo and behold, he didn't know he happened to cross paths of a guy that was just out with a vengeance to get people. Because he was just upset, because the guy lost his head in a battle. I think it was in the Revolutionary War, if I got it right here.
That would make sense, right?
And through via cannonball. What a way to go!
Wow, that is a way.
So
At least it's quick.
and I picture, I don't know why, I picture a guy like a comic. There's a character called Ghost Rider. It's like a skull with a flame.
Yep.
I
That's
picture
also
him holding
a
like
movie.
a pumpkin, or like with the image of like on fire and stuff. And funny story, the guys, when they're trying to recreate this like modern day, they're like, it's really hard because try to ride a horse 40 miles an hour while you have a flaming fireball.
No.
It doesn't yield to like good results.
Tough. Yeah.
So poor guy was just crossing a bridge by a church. It was oh my gosh, I'm trying to get the church here. It was, pardon me here. I had it in my head. My head was back there. Oh my gosh, where it was? Oh, it was an old Dutch church in Phillipsburg. I don't know the exact manner. So the guy came across, and he allegedly, you don't know, like he didn't kill him. He might have just taken him.
Okay.
But that was the whole idea of like this guy. A little bit of backstory on him. Like had the cannonball, hit the head, lost head. He was upset. And he was just angry, and just kind of like anybody that crossed his path in this area where I'm not sure if that's where exactly he had died or
Was
had
it
a cannonball.
bridge when he would like?
But yeah, it was a bridge. It was a bridge that's not around anymore. It crosses the Tanaco. I'm not going to pronounce this right.
Patum?
P-O-C Pocantico River. Pocantico. I think around that area. It's not too far from. It's a bridge that's named after the governor, recent governor, Cuomo.
Oh, okay.
So around that area. So he was just literally just riding through the town in Sleepy Hollow. Ichabod Crane was, and then this angry demon sort of guy just came and allegedly took him.
Okay.
And there became the folklore of like, what's this guy doing? It's kind of like this one, like this other guy in like Germany, and this other guy in Ireland. But there's some, like we were talking about, is it true? Is it not? Like, there was a funny story about it. Is allegedly there is where was it here? Oh my gosh, where did I go? Sorry.
This is what happens when you get old kids.
Oh, I know.
We forget things
Oh.
all the time,
Yes,
and then we
yes,
can't
totally.
see them when we try to look them up.
Yes.
Happens to all of us.
So it was a prank. So I don't know these guys too well. So basically, it was by Ichabod had a rival. So a way to kind of debunk this was it was a rival friend of his.
Okay.
So Ichabod Crane allegedly liked the same girl.
Yeah.
And it
I remember
became-
there being a girl involved.
And it became
Love triangle.
like a prank of sorts, and then he basically took him, like, and disguised himself as this
Okay.
headless horseman,
Okay.
and came across and took him away, but like people say that you can still hear like the spooky sounds around that bridge. The bridge has been rebuilt. It was basically like an old style. Like, imagine if you just took like cut lumber or cut trees, fallen trees, laid them down, and made like a triangle. Very simplistic bridge that's been rebuilt. But I always hear, I'm going to include in the podcast, like a little bit of eerie, like horse steps going across the bridge, and you can imagine then the horse like slows down. Lord of the Rings has this Dementor, like not Dementor, it's Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Right, like a witch. They're called the witches, and it's like this. Imagine like this dark, faceless thing, and the horse, and like you can hear it just get closer and closer, and then it stops, and you can hear the horse like just breathing, and then all like these little bugs would come around as where the horses touch down, because it's like just all these creepy, evil vibes coming, and that's kind of the vibe I get with this.
And there's mist. I feel
And
like
there's
always
like,
mist,
this
right?
ominous mist. Yeah,
There's a bridge. There's
and
water.
Lord of the Rings, that's what it was. They were trying to get across, but these guys didn't like the water too much, so they had to go around. But like Frodo and those guys crossed. So something about spirits not liking it. But that's the general fact about it. Like, guy was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Maybe true, maybe not. I don't know.
So what's funny? So obviously the internet has a lot of cool little videos.
Oh yeah,
Right? Whenever
yeah,
you're
yeah.
scrolling on social media or whatever, and I just remembered one that I had seen this year for football season.
Okay.
And I'm sure the kids have seen it, or maybe whoever's listening has seen it. And I like the football team for the Sleepy Hollow school
Okay, yep.
has the Headless Horseman as their mascot.
Oh, that's bold
And I
too.
saw-
Yeah.
and I saw a video of the like homecoming game
Okay.
where the Headless Horseman mascot, who is like dude riding a horse without the head, so it's got to be obviously some kind of costume or whatever that has it designed, brings the team out. Like, he leads the
that's
team out
fun.
onto the field and like out of the woods and down. Like, so they like the field is kind of set down
Mhm.
off a hill, and above the hill are some woods. And so the
Oh.
team and the Headless Horseman emerge from the woods and come down. Onto
Yeah, just like kind of like replaying it. But I
Yeah.
mean, talk about a mascot
That's
you wouldn't
cool.
want to mess with. Yeah,
Right?
like
Yeah,
that.
the video was really neat. It was really cool, and I was wondering, like, that'd be cool. That'd be really neat.
And certain beverage
Yeah.
companies have capitalized on this
Yeah.
too, with
Yeah.
like like having like this headless. And it's just a pumpkin, a guy, and a horse,
Yeah.
But it's very like a very spooky like story about like a wrong place, wrong time sort of guy.
Is it Christopher Walken, the Headless Horseman, in the movie? Now that I'm remembering,
I don't
I
know.
think he might be,
Um,
because I'm picturing what his head looked like in the movie. Because at one point you do see what he looked like, because they're I don't know.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
Christopher
It's all
Good.
coming back to me
Yeah, see,
now.
I haven't seen it, so I didn't know. I had
You
to
guys
had to
see it
Google
now.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and so now there's so a couple fun facts too.
Okay.
So I kind of faded at the end there. My brain was just fried at the end of the day here.
Oh, it's hot.
So it's a place that is like you could go and check it out.
Yeah.
Like, and there's like in Halloween time, I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people like
Yeah.
frequent there.
Yeah.
So his horse's name, the Ichabod Crane's not the guy. I don't know
Okay.
the Headless Horseman guy's his horse, but his was. You have any idea? Like a shot in the dark? No pun intended.
Swift.
Swift. Gunpowder.
Oh, Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like that.
Alright.
You know, maybe people probably had a lot of guns. Revolutionary War, and probably everyone had like gun in their
back in
back there.
Um,
And so so nowadays you can go down there. They have like you can do haunted hayride.
Yeah.
They have like they have cemetery tours. They have a great jack-o'-lantern blaze with thousands of pumpkins, like super intricately designed.
Yeah.
You know, like, so you could go down there, kind of like Salem setup, but this is like, you know, I mean, it's a little bit, probably a little bit closer, maybe
Maybe
about
like
the
a
same.
day trip from
Yeah.
our area.
Yeah.
Definitely from the city too.
Yeah, it's stone's throw away. It's
Yeah.
in New York, and
Nice little fall excursion.
right. Go
Yeah.
down there. It's probably beautiful. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're still got a little bit of foliage going on
We do.
here.
Well, downstate they'll have more.
Yeah.
They're
It's
not
just like
far
Adirondacks.
along.
I was up there when it was peak,
Yeah,
and it was just
which
like
was like a couple
just,
weeks ago.
just stunning.
Yeah.
So right by Chapel Pond, I took my drone out, took
Nice.
some pictures.
I
But
went to Keene, New Hampshire for their pumpkin fest that they have there a couple weekends ago.
that sounds fun.
They have something similar where they have a big scaffolding with jack-o'-lanterns
Yeah.
at all the area elementary schools that all the kids made pumpkins and you could carve one if you went there. And it was
Yeah,
just,
oh,
the
that's so
whole like town center was just scaffolds with pumpkins all around, and then at night they lit them all up.
Oh, I was just gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That's
really neat.
so.
But when we drove out there, it was right around peak, and it was so pretty. It's so pretty. You can't beat the north
No.
in the fall. You can't
No,
beat it.
it really is just absolutely stunning. And my son and I experienced 2 seasons in one when we hiked Whiteface,
Snow.
and we had I think it was we got into it as we were exiting. We did 2 peaks that day. We had lunch
Yep.
at the top.
Yeah.
There's only one mountain you can do that in
Yeah.
the peaks. I'm like, let's do it. Let's go for it. But on the way down, there was it was like white out.
I can believe it.
And then within that week, I don't know, was that snowstorm? I saw a post on Reddit where it was like a foot or so. I'd been there. I mean, I was ready. You know, I'd have my crampons, but I had good boots. I had winter-ish jacket. But it's amazing what people wear, and thinking they're ready for the peaks.
Oh yeah.
I mean, nowadays next time I go, I have to have. You know, I brought my hand warmers. My son needed them,
Yep.
but it is, it's beautiful. I saw there was one. The storm was coming in. It was
that's
like all white, and then you see a little gap in the storm, and you saw the orange mountains blowing through, and I'm like,
That's gorgeous.
this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is only in New York. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
so beautiful. So yeah, that's what I got on
Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow,
Very cool.
and I think it's a fascinating like story. And I think hopefully people put some resources out there for people to kind of read the book and find out like little facts. Maybe you can find out other little things that I didn't uncover.
Oh, there's got to be tons of personal experiences
Yeah.
and people from across the generations who
Right.
had
Maybe
stories
someone
associated
new,
with that
like
enforcement. Yeah.
I could see, like maybe somebody knew Ichabod Crane or had
Ooh, yeah.
a friend that
Yep.
knew somebody. Like it's all about who you know. They say these days. So
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
there's
that's
some.
how the stories change,
Right.
and twist, and get longer and more embellished over time. Is
Yeah,
who you know.
it is.
Who you
And,
tell a story to.
and I think that's a good spot to end on.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I don't see. I'm looking out here, and I don't see in the woods. I don't see Mr. Swicky at all yet. So I think
Right.
he's
still searching
he's-
for that witch, huh?
So, yeah, he might be having to forage because the light is getting very dim at this point in the
Maybe
day.
he's
So
needing a tonic for his
yes,
fatigue.
some quinine in it,
Little-
maybe.
yeah,
Like, yes.
Possibly.
Well, excellent. I hope, and I mean, if you guys too have any information on the stories we talked about, you can comment on the socials. We'll have it on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook.
Or your own local legends.
Yes.
Or local stories.
And I'm presently working on it. I got to finalize it, but I'm trying to work on getting a little store set up on
fun.
Threadless for people to buy shirts, and we'll try to take some of the proceeds and toss them back into the school and whatnot. But so keep your eyes peeled for that link. We'll post it soon, and as soon as I get it established, I'm kind of learning the parameters of that. So
Very cool.
so
Draper
get some
Radio swag.
Yes,
Nice.
we'll get it going. Be safe, Halloween. Don't
Make
do
good
anything
choices.
stupid. All right, and don't take any apples that look like they have any razor blades in them,
Or popcorn.
or
in a plastic
popcorn
bag.
saran wrapped.
Yeah. No. No.
Look,
eating.
only smart food
Only smart food in the bag.
in the
Sealed.
bag. So check it.
Yep.
All right.
Happy
Take-
Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween. Take care.